As a sponsor of the 2022 Cyber Marketing Con, the CyberWire will be presenting a CISO Q&A panel session on solving the cyber marketer's dilemma of reaching unreachable buyers in the industry. Join us in Arlington, Virginia, November 16th through the 18th for a great event. Visit cybersecuritymarketingsociety.com/conference 2022 to learn more.
One small business, two small businesses, not a major impact. But if this is occurring every day and we're talking about thousands of attacks and we're not able to measure it effectively, what impact is that long-term going to have on national security and the economy?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, the phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is Joe Kerrigan from Harbor Labs and the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
Got some good stories to share this week. And later in the show, Curtis Minder returns. He is the CEO of GroupSense, and we're going to be talking about the impact of new legislation on SMBs.
So who's got the advantage in cybersecurity, the attacker or the defender? Intelligent people differ on this, but the conventional wisdom is that the advantage goes to the attacker. But why is this? Stay with us and we'll have some insights from our sponsor, KnowBe4, that put it into perspective.
All right, Joe, let's jump into our show here. Before we get to our stories, we have some follow-up.
Yeah, actually, it's not follow-up. It's kind of a new development. So Elon Musk has purchased Twitter.
Yes.
Right? And you're a big Twitter user, right?
I am.
So how do you feel about Elon purchasing Twitter now, or Twitter now being an Elon Musk property?
I'm not happy.
You're not happy?
I'm sad.
Are you?
Yeah.
Dave, he has a proposal, though, that might make you happy.
Elon Musk has a lot of ideas.
Right.
Go on.
One of them is this blue check mark for $8 a month.
Yeah.
And Elon says we have to pay the bills somehow. Apparently, advertising is not enough.
Yeah.
And Stephen King, I saw an exchange. He was saying that if Twitter says I need to pay to be authenticated with the blue check, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about this. First off, one of the things that Elon said is you'll get fewer ads.
I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, for $8 a month, I need no ads. That's number one.
Okay.
Because I know you don't make $8 a month on my using Twitter right now.
Okay.
You'll be making more money with me. Do me a favor. Don't show me any of those damn promoted ads. I hate those promoted tweets. I can't stand them.
Okay.
They're terrible. What about my ability? Can I block non-verified accounts on Twitter? Because I understand what he's trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea is that if you have a non-verified account, your account will be taken less seriously, and then you'll be more likely to be a bot. Maybe it's part of his move to get bots off the platform.
Could be.
But first off, do you think $8 a month is a good value for a blue check?
Well, I think it's a misguided approach. I mean, first of all, I already pay for Twitter. I pay for Twitter Blue, which gives me, let's see, what does it give me? It gives me the ability to post longer videos. That was actually the main reason that I got Twitter Blue.
Okay. Was
so that I could paste last year's CyberWire Christmas video, which was longer than 2 minutes. So if you pay the $3 a month, you can post longer videos. There's some other benefits. There's some content you get without subscriptions and things like that. There's some ad-free content you can get for having Twitter Blue. It's $3 a month. Not a big deal.
Right.
So I'm fine with it. And I get a lot of value out of Twitter. So I was like, yeah, $3 a month. Let me throw a little money Twitter's way, and I'm happy to do that. But that's different from a verified checkmark. I will tell you, I have applied for a verified checkmark twice.
Right.
And been turned down both times.
Right.
The first time, I totally understand why I wasn't, there's no reason for them to give me one, but I figured out what have I got to lose. The second time, I sent them everything they asked for from my position at the CyberWire.
Right.
And I have, if you go to the CyberWire website, there I'm listed, and I sent them a link to that, and all those kinds of things. I'd say the only thing I'm missing is like a Wikipedia page on me or something like that. You
and I don't have Wikipedia pages.
No, we do not, and I'm whatever. I'm fine with that.
I'm not.
But so I think the mistake here is that, to me, the blue check mark and the verification is a way for users of Twitter to know that who they're dealing with is actually who they say they are, because there's some level of scrutiny that goes into that.
Right.
You have to send them a copy of your ID. This is not that. To $8 to get a blue check mark is just, for $8, I can say I'm anybody.
Right.
And so this is going to be.
We don't know how this is going to work, though.
No, we don't. But why conflate the two? Right? Keep the blue check mark, keep the verified accounts for people who truly need it, celebrities, journalists, people for whom we need to know that the information we're getting from them is from them and not from someone pretending to be them.
Right.
And then find some way to bring value to an $8 a month subscription. Maybe it is no ads. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. But I think he's coming at this the wrong way by conflating the two, and I suspect it's going to end up blowing up in his face. I think, and actually it's funny, Ben Yellen and I talked about this on over on the Caveat podcast this week.
Did.
I think that Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter is very much like Donald Trump's run for the presidency of the United States, and that is it is a PR effort that went horribly wrong. I don't believe that Donald Trump really ever wanted to be president of the United States. I think he wanted all the attention and publicity that came with running for president of the United States, and it just spun out of control. And I think the same thing has happened here with Elon Musk, where there was a certain amount of bravado, and he said, "Oh, why don't I just buy it? Ha, ha, ha." And the next thing he knows, the SEC is like, "You've said things, and so you're on the hook here to buy this company." And now he owns it. He's in a terrible position. He's loaded it up with debt. And I'm really afraid that something that has become, that I enjoy as part of my day and, people I communicate with, I think there's a good chance that it could really go down the tubes. So we'll see.
I don't know if it's going to go down the tubes. I think the platform is always going to have value. I read somewhere, he paid $44 billion for it?
Yeah,
somehow?
something like that.
And then somebody valued the company at like $12 billion.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I haven't looked at what their business model, what their revenue and profits are and all that stuff. I know what their business model is, but I don't know what their revenues are and profits are. I really don't. Like I've said many, many times, I really don't like social media, and I don't participate in it. I was just curious about this ability to just buy a blue check mark and get your opinion on it, because I know you are a big Twitter user.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I think $8 a month, if you can find value in that, great. Make that an option. I also saw somebody did the math on this, and if everybody who's verified right now paid $8 a month, it would only be something like $35 million, which is
a year?
Yeah, which is not, it's a drop in the bucket. That doesn't even service the debt that the company's been loaded up with. So I don't know. There's, they're moving very fast. They're changing things very fast, and please hold on to the bar. Here we go.
Please hold on to the bar.
Yeah.
All right. You want to move into the stories now?
Please.
I'm over here poking the bear with a short stick.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't mean to bring you down, Dave. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right. Well, I do have another story, and it is another social media story, but we're not going to be talking about Twitter again. We're going to be talking about Facebook. And my story comes from Mike Krafsick at WWMT in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I picked this story solely because it comes out of Kalamazoo, and Kalamazoo is fun to say.
Kalamazoo, yeah.
But it's an interesting scam that's going on. And we'll put a link in the show notes to the story, and you can watch the video that explains it. But there's some things that are missing in terms of the reporting here, because these reporters are not cybersecurity experts, right?
Sure.
They're just journalists.
Yeah.
But there's an ongoing chain of this scam. And what happens is there is they got in touch with this first victim who didn't want to be identified, and he wound up sending money to somebody he thought was a Facebook friend.
Okay.
But after he sends the money, his account got compromised.
His Facebook account.
His Facebook account
Okay.
got compromised. And they used that account to do the same things to everybody else that was his Facebook friend.
Mm-hmm.
Then they interview another woman named Ruth who says she was targeted by the same scam. She got a text message over Facebook Messenger asking for $200.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets a Facebook Messenger video call of her friend that is, looks like her friend. His mouth is moving and everything.
Yeah.
And it's a short video call, only 18 seconds long, but she becomes convinced that it's him looking for $200.
Okay.
So she actually sends $200 to her friend via his phone number because she has his contacts.
Right.
And she looks up his phone number in Cash App and they go, that's this guy. And she sends $200. And the guy on the other end goes, no, that's not me. So the scammer got upset. This was actually a scam. It doesn't really say if she actually sent the money to her friend, but I'm assuming that she did. So she's probably not out that money. She could probably get that money back from her friend.
Okay.
But here's what I think is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think it's spreading kind of like a virus. Of course, there's talk in the article and on the video about this being a deep fake technology, but I don't think this is a deep fake technology. So
Okay.
here's what I think happens. Once I've compromised someone's account, everybody gets a video call, right? Somewhere there has to be a first video call,
Right.
right? During that video call, it's very short. It's only 18 seconds or something like that. But I, as the bad guy, is recording the video call. They have some screen recording that they're doing,
Oh, I see.
right?
Yeah.
And then they are editing that video call, taking the audio out of it, and then they try to compromise your account. So
Right.
let's say I'm targeting Dave Bittner. I know that you're not on Facebook anymore, Dave.
Yeah.
Lucky you. But let's say I'm targeting you and I call you up and you're the first guy and I just try to do a video call. You think it's actually your friend Bob, but it's actually bad guy Joe on the other end.
Yeah.
And I record your video
Right.
during the call. And then I use like OBS Studio or something like that, which is an open source and freely available screen recording tool
Yeah.
that you can use. And I take that video and edit it in maybe Shotcut, which is another open source and free tool that lets me edit videos.
Okay.
And then I get you to compromise your account by sending you a phishing link somehow.
Yeah.
And then I call all of your friends and when I show the video, when I call them, when I do the video call with them, I actually feed, instead of a camera feed, I feed in your video of you talking and your lips moving.
Right.
And it becomes more convincing.
Right. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think that's what's happening here.
Huh.
So it's an interesting scam. Of course, Mike Krasik reaches out to Meta, and Meta says, we strongly encourage people to be wary of unexpected, unusual messages and calls from existing contacts and report suspicious messages and friend requests to Meta right away so we can take action. I said, that ought to do it. Thanks, Meta.
Yeah. Right.
Great work. Great work, guys.
Yeah. This reminds me of an updated and enhanced version of the old thing that I saw many times where a friend's account, let's say Facebook account, would be compromised.
Right.
And I'd get a message from them that would say, Dave, I'm stuck in England and I lost my passport. Will you send me $50?
Right.
I'm desperate. And it's a scam.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but now they have a video of it. A
Right,
video of
right.
your friend.
So-
So it actually looks like they're video calling.
That's right. So if I get that message and then I get a video call from that friend and I see moving video of that friend and I think to myself, oh, my friend must be having trouble with their audio.
Uh-huh.
But now it just reinforces that really is my friend
Right.
and I'm much more likely to send the money.
Right. And that's exactly what happened to Ruth. She talks about in the article about how she was convinced that this was her friend. And fortunately, she sent the money via the phone number rather than the account that the scammer gave her.
Yeah.
You know, Dave, when we started doing Zoom calls for regular meetings once the pandemic started,
Yeah.
I recorded a Zoom call of just me, right?
Yeah.
And put that on full screen so I could just get a video of me sitting there. And I moved my eyes by starting by looking directly at the camera.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved my eyes around the room.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked directly back at the camera.
Yeah.
Right? But I was recording the Zoom call at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when that Zoom call was over, I had a video of me looking at the camera, looking all the way around, and then looking back at the camera.
Right.
Right? So then I took that video and I made that my background on Zoom.
Yes.
So,
I've heard of this, yes.
so now,
Dastardly, Joe, dastardly.
right, now I'm sitting there in the meeting and I'm just playing a video of me looking at the camera and looking around. And it's important that you start by looking at the camera and end by looking at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did use Shotcut to edit that back up. And then I sat there and then I had to talk on the meeting. So I turned my microphone on and started talking and somebody goes, "Joe, your lips aren't moving." And then I turn my camera and I go, "Well, I have a background here." And that got a big
Busted.
a big laugh. It wasn't so much busted. I was hoping that would happen. You know, I just wanted to demonstrate the proof of concept to everybody. You know,
I heard of a lot of students doing that during the pandemic.
Yeah. I actually didn't hear about anybody doing that. I was pretty proud that I came up with that on my own. But I'm sure that, you know, like I've had so many other great ideas that have just been taken away by other people because they came up with it and they've made millions by it. But there's no way somebody can make millions by that. But I thought this story was very interesting and a very similar take on that.
Yeah. Well,
that way
it's
of going
an
about
extra level of sophistication, but also effort on their part.
Yeah.
Taking the time to do that, but I can see how it would work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, my story this week actually comes from my own life.
Okay. I love the ones that come from our lives.
Oh, Joe, my dear father,
Yes.
who is 88 years old, and I love very much, and but he is technologically challenged.
Correct.
I am his, as I suspect you probably are for members of your family, I am his number one source of tech support.
Yes.
As I often say when I answer the phone, and it's my dad, "Hello, Dave's Lifetime Unlimited Tech Support. Dave speaking. How may I help you?" So he calls me up and he says, "I got a problem, Dave. I got a problem. I got this email from Best Buy, and they're saying that I owe them $500. I'm like, "Dad, okay, forward me the email." I said, "Don't do anything. Don't do anything." He said, "Well, I've been trying to call the number all day."
Oh, no.
Yeah. He said, "I tried to call him yesterday, and it's just a busy signal. And I've been trying to call him all day today, and it's still a busy signal. And I'm afraid," you know, the email says. So let me just back up a little bit. So I got the email from him, and it says invoice from Best Buy and the Geek Squad. It is dated. There's a date on it from the date that they sent this to him. It says, "Hello, customer. We respect you choosing our offerings. We would like to let you understand that your prior PC safety plan's auto renewal is today, and you will be charged $499.99, which will be deducted robotically from your saved bank account." And then it says Geek Squad service, price $499.99, payment method, auto debit, purchase online. For cancellation of the subscription or refund policy, contact us on our 24/7 helpline number. And then there's the phone number, and that was the phone number he was calling.
Right.
So I'm guessing that he got lucky that this phone number had already been compromised, had already been shut down, that they were using this phone number. It could be that it was overwhelmed with calls.
Right.
I don't know.
That's my fear on this.
Right.
That this campaign was so successful that they can't handle the call volume.
Right. But let me tell you, Joe, I get this call from my dad, and this is real to him.
Right.
He's called his bank.
Right.
To make sure that the money hadn't come out of his bank account already.
That's the right call to make.
Yeah?
Yeah. Call the bank. You know who your bank is, right?
Yeah.
Call them up and say, "Hey, I got this invoice. Look for an account. Tell them. Somebody says they're going to be debiting my account $499.99. That's a fraudulent transaction if that happens."
Yeah. So obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
What they were after here was for him to call, and then the scam begins.
And then they will install all kinds of malicious software on his computer, and
right.
It's just a a bad situation from there on out.
But I have to say, I felt a little bad because as much as I do to try to prepare him against these sorts of things, he was already on his way down the path.
Right.
He had called the bad guys before checking with me.
Yeah.
Despite me saying to him over and over again,
don't do that.
don't do that.
Right.
Check with me. Send these things to me. They're always scams.
Yeah.
Never call. Don't click on anything. And here we were. He had already, because he didn't want to bother me, Joe.
Right.
Didn't want to bother me. Didn't
Right.
want to be a bother. So for a couple days, he had been trying to call the bad guys to give them his money.
They were probably going to get more than $500 if they had
they
done
may
this.
have, yeah. And honestly, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I'd say my dad is pretty sharp and he's pretty savvy, but at the same time, he was halfway down the path with these folks. So,
right. No, and that's a key part. Everybody likes to think, oh, this would never happen to me. I wouldn't fall for this.
right.
We all fall for these things. At some point in time, something is going to trip a trigger in your head, and you're just going to just be sucked in.
Yeah.
It's very important to have people that you can call and people that you can listen to, that you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. Well, and he said, it's funny too, because when we were talking about it and I was sort of talking him down, I said, Dad, just throw it away.
Right.
Just delete it. He said, I can do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just throw it away. And I don't have to contact the bank? No.
Well, I mean,
But
he doesn't have to contact the bank.
I
but-
said, Dad, it's a scam.
Right.
They didn't contact your bank.
Right.
It's fine if you want to check with them. Great.
Sure.
If it makes you feel better,
Yep.
great. But that's not what this scam is.
Right. Right.
So your
Yeah, but
bank
I-
is fine. You're fine. Delete it and get on with your life and hopefully, live to fight another day.
But I think that him calling the bank will make him feel better, and that's why he should do it.
Yeah, that's true.
And for no other reason. You're right. It doesn't do anything for the scam because the scam has not actually been pulled on him yet. This is just
Right.
the hook for the scam. He's hooked in,
Yeah.
but he hasn't actually been victimized yet.
Right.
So, but if calling the bank and telling them about this and say, be on the lookout for a fraudulent transaction, if that puts his mind at ease, that is well worth the time it takes to make the call.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm not, there's nothing for me to link to here. This is a pretty common scam.
Right.
Tech support scam, I guess, is how we would categorize it.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of these going around from pretending to be from places like Best Buy. There's one that makes the rounds that pretends to be from like Norton Antivirus, from McAfee, all of these consumer-facing tech brands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this exact same thing. They say, hey, good news. We're going to auto-renew your subscription. And you, of course, you don't have a subscription.
Right.
So they get you on the phone and then they got you.
Yeah. Does your dad listen to this podcast?
No. No. Does my dad listen to this podcast? Joe, I love you, man. But
Sorry.
does my no. My dad, oh gosh. No. I bought my dad a remote control for his TV that has fewer buttons, Joe.
Okay. I get it.
Okay. So that's where we are with
I
my
empathize
dad.
with that.
No, there's no way he could handle a podcast subscription. No,
Okay.
No. I just love my dad. It's not his thing. So, and you know what? I could go to him every week when I visit him and just do it live.
You just play it out of your phone.
No, just do it, just me.
Oh,
Just do a live performance for him.
I'm Dave
Maybe
Bittner from the Cyberwire.
maybe one day you and I can go over and do it in person.
Yeah, that'd be
We'll
great.
Just sit down with him, give
Have
him
a conversation.
a best of version of the show. Maybe
Yes.
it'll help out and, as we say, help inoculate my dear father
Yes.
for some of these things. All right, that is my story this week. Joe, time to move on to our catch of the day.
Dave, our catch of the day comes from an anonymous listener who writes, "Hello, favorite podcast men."
Oh,
Hey, we're someone's favorite.
that's nice.
It is a pleasure to write to you.
Oh.
This was sent to me on an email address I once set up for a security camera I tried to install but never got working properly. I guess the company got breached. It thinks it was D-Link,
Okay.
which makes sense. I think we've heard of D-Link breaches. It's interesting that he set up an email just for a camera, which is a good idea, I think. Emails are pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But he says at the end of his note, he says he wonders if these emails ever work. And I think they do work. And that's why you keep getting them.
Right.
Because this is just an advanced fee scam email, but like we've seen so many of these before, but the wording is terrible.
All right. It goes like this. Hello, dearest one. It's my pleasure to write you, and I know you are good. My name is Mrs. Phuong Dung. I was born in Hung Yen, Vietnam, but I lived with my husband in Whistler, Canada for a long time until he died. I have been suffering from cancer and have a short life to go. I lost my husband in June. Meanwhile, before my husband's death, he worked on a contract of $1,800,000 only with the American government, but his death took him before the money was transferred to my bank account. My husband was a philanthropist before his death. He also encouraged me to help the poor, orphans, and widows. Since we got married, we couldn't have children until death separates us. I have deposited $800,000 to the hospital for my treatment. Now, due to my state of health, I want to send the remaining $1 million to you so that you will help me give it to the poor and widows in your country. As ordered by my late husband, because we have no children to inherit the money, I do not discriminate against religion, ethnicity when controlling this project.
How noble.
I pray that God will give you a kind heart to take care of this project. I will not be there to watch you for this project, but God will be there to see you. You have to take 30% for the money for your personal use and use the rest for charity. Please help me to fulfill my last wish. Reply back to me in the email below for more details on how you will receive the money without any complications. Yours faithful, Mrs. Phuong Dung.
This is very interesting, I think. Well, I mean, it's typical. It's typical. A couple of things wrong with it. First off, the English is a little bit broken. So
Yeah.
It looks like it may have run through a translator, or maybe it was written by someone who isn't a native English speaker. Who knows?
Yeah.
I love when you yell because the $1,800,000 US only is in all caps.
Right.
That's there to catch your attention.
Yes.
Another point here is that she has deposited $800,000 into the hospital for her treatment in Canada, which has
Oh, I didn't think about
socialized medicine. So nobody in
Right.
Canada pays $800,000 for medical treatment.
that. No, I was going to say here in the States, that'll get you a few aspirin.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's a good. I didn't catch that. That's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple of red flags in here, but these are, we read these because we know they're scams, right? So we look for the holes in them. But if somebody's not looking at this from a standpoint of skepticism, then that's how they fall for this.
Right. And hey, take 30% of the money for my personal use.
Yeah, it's $300,000.
I'm only following the good widow's request here.
Right.
Her instructions. She wanted me to take $300,000 for my own use. So I'm just being a good person.
So what happens here is if you reply to this email, you'll get advanced fee requests, right? You might actually get requests for your personal identifiable information and bank account information.
Right.
And they may try to steal money from you that way. This is just a scam, just the tip of the spear of the scam.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you start paying advanced fees, this is what I like to say every single time. You will always just pay advanced fees until you either run out of money or stop giving it to them.
That's right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. Thanks to our listener for sending that in. We do appreciate it. We would love to hear from you. Our email address is hackinghumans@thecyberwire.com.
Now let's return to our sponsor's question about the attacker's advantage. Why do the experts think this is so? It's not like a military operation where the defender is thought to have most of the advantages. In cyberspace, the attacker can just keep trying and probing at low risk and low cost, and the attacker only has to be successful once. And as KnowBe4 points out, Email filters designed to keep malicious spam out have a failure rate of over 10%. That sounds pretty good. Who wouldn't want to bat nearly 900? But this isn't baseball. If your technical defenses fail in 1 out of 10 tries, you're out of luck and maybe out of business. The last line of defense is your human firewall. You can test that firewall with KnowBe4's free phishing test, which you can order up at knowbe4.com/fishtest. That's knowbe4.com/fishtest.
Joe, it's great to welcome Curtis Minder back to the show. He is the CEO of an organization called GroupSense. And our conversation today centers on some new legislation that may affect small and medium-sized businesses. Here's my conversation with Curtis Minder.
The ransomware cases that we see and hear about on the news are often very focused on the larger companies. For every one of those that we hear about, there's probably thousands. Our sample size at GroupSense is what it is, and many of these go unreported, but probably thousands of small businesses that are being hit that aren't being paid attention to or addressed. And unfortunately, for a lot of the small businesses, they end up in a situation where they don't have the economic resources to recover. For them, more than for the larger companies, the situation ends up where they have to make a decision to either go out of business or pay the ransom.
Yeah, and so, Congress, in its own special way, and by that I mean slowly, is working on some things to assist here. But I understand in your mind, maybe this isn't going to provide the relief that some of these small and medium-sized businesses need.
Well, any step in a positive direction is good. But I don't think that the small business community is represented well enough in Congress. And I have met with the small business folks there, the committee lead there, and talked about this, and we're in agreement. The problem for them also is that because a lot of these go unreported, and they go unreported for a number of reasons, primarily shame or embarrassment is part of that. Fear of retribution from law enforcement, just lack of knowledge of the circumstances there. But the metrics that would drive policy from a small business perspective aren't really clear. So that's a hard thing to overcome. But yeah, ultimately what I've been campaigning for, I'm using that word sort of loosely. What I've been campaigning for is if we need to try to find a way to curb ransomware payments, then simply making that illegal or forcing reporting aren't going to solve that necessarily. They're in fact, they may drive behavior underground. What we need is to provide some third option for small businesses beyond go out of business, pay a ransom, perhaps even a subsidized program to help recover or prevent. Obviously, prevention in my mind is always the best option, and that's usually the case in everything in life. It's the cheapest and best option, right?
Yeah. What do you imagine something like this could look like? How in a practical way, how could it play out?
Well, I don't want to turn a blind eye to some of the work that, like, for example, CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency, are already doing from a sort of a public service announcement perspective, where they're promoting best practices around cyber hygiene and things like that. So that's part of the prevention effort. So let's give them kudos for taking that first step. But perhaps taking some of the macro level data that we have about the cyber attack landscape, and we're talking a little bit about ransomware here, but also keep in mind that one of the there's a number of other cyber attacks that are occurring and in volume across not just large companies, but small businesses, like, for example, the business email compromise, that could be prevented with a little bit of cyber hygiene education and perhaps some subsidized program. And if we took the macro level data and we looked at it and said there is a return on investment keeping, fiat liquid capital in the U.S. economy, which, by the way, I don't have to say this out loud, but I should, I guess. Small businesses make up most of the U.S. GDP and more than half the jobs typically. So they're kind of important. I would argue, collectively they're critical infrastructure, right? So if we could take a look at that data and determine an ROI or return on investment for a subsidized program to help them fund some of the defenses and prevention efforts, and then potentially even provide some remediation if it occurs anyway, that would be amazing.
So, I mean, are we thinking along the lines of, other public programs we have? I mean, we have clean water. We have, there are organizations like FEMA who come in and help clean up after there's been a natural disaster. Are we thinking along those sorts of lines?
Yeah, and I do think that some of the efforts under DHS and CISA are headed in that direction, but the legislation hasn't quite caught up.
I was recently having a conversation with some folks from my local FBI field office, and they were saying how an effort for them is really to have outreach so that these small and medium business owners know that they're a resource, that they should reach out to the FBI if they have a problem. And they're not going to be audited. The FBI is not going to come through and rifle through all of their paperwork. They are actually here to help.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear. We obviously work tactically with the FBI field offices as we go through these cases. And the only downside to that is that they would also probably tell you that they're overextended. So they're simultaneously offering their hand, but what they're not telling you is we don't have a whole lot of resources to use on it. And the smaller the case, the less likely they're going to be able to allocate resources to it. So once again, small businesses are started falling to the bottom of the priority pile. And again, I'll restate it. One small business, two small businesses, not a major impact. But if this is occurring every day and we're talking about thousands of attacks, and we're not able to measure it effectively, what impact is that long-term going to have on national security and the economy? I'm just trying to raise a flag, myself, both public speaking, volunteering at chambers of commerce. I just did a TEDx talk on the topic, trying to promote good cyber hygiene and behavior on the small businesses. Also, what I found is a lot of small businesses still feel like this isn't going to happen to them. So they don't understand the why well enough. And it is highly likely that they are a target. And so we have to get the word out that you're not, just because you're a small, accounting firm in middle America doesn't mean that this isn't going to happen to you.
In terms of communications with, you mentioned like a chamber of commerce or, even making a phone call or writing a letter to our representatives, what sorts of things should we be asking for? What should we be advocating here?
Communication, I think, is kind of a backbone of all of this. Is, one of the things that we have to get out there is that it is okay to report this. Again, I'm just getting back to the macro level data. In order to get people to get out of their seats and make changes, they need to understand the impact. And right now, many, not just the small business ones, but many of these cyber attacks are kind of swept under the rug to the best of the ability of the victim for a number of reasons. And so we need to certainly promote transparency and communication, at least with law enforcement, about this, so that we can get that macro level data. And then, prevention programs are key. We actually, at a group sense, launched a nonprofit that partners with universities, that trains university students to assess and make some of the cyber hygiene changes for small businesses in the university communities. They do that for free. They get school credit and get paid to do it. And so just on a community by community basis, I would say, even to my hacker colleagues at DEF CON, go to your chamber of commerce and have these conversations with your local businesses, right? It's really a communication first issue.
Are you optimistic that we're headed in the right direction here? Do you sense that things are getting better?
It's really hard to say because, again, a lot of this stuff is going unreported. Our sample size, is what it is. And the number of cases we get, hasn't really changed. So those indicators indicate that it was sort of status quo. But I think from an awareness and a policy perspective, and some of the things I see CISA doing, and the way that the FBI has organized their response, I think those are all positive steps that we're undergoing. Policy next, right? The policy needs to catch up to that.
Where do you stand on mandatory reporting? I mean, is that overall a good thing, or might it lead to unintended consequences?
I think the spirit of it is good. The intention and the spirit of it is a good thing, and the potential for it to impact policy and national security is good. Like any other kind of reporting or data sort of stewardship, you always have the concerns that data gets leaked, or the victim data gets leaked at our government level. And so it's, as long as they're putting the right protections around the people who are reporting to protect their privacy, I think that's key. But yes, I think it's generally a good thing.
Joe, what do you think?
First off, it's always great to have Curtis back. I like listening to what Curtis has to say. I think there is a huge business opportunity that's being missed by providing cybersecurity services to small and medium-sized businesses. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other people out there have those great ideas and have thought about this and then tried to sell it to small and medium-sized businesses, but they don't have the money to buy it. And that's really the key problem, is that generally small businesses and medium-sized businesses don't have a ton of cash.
Right.
So my opinion on this matter is this has to be something that's done at scale, right? There has to be a company that is founded with the idea that we're going to represent security services for these businesses, and we're going to just have some economy of scale by the fact that we have so many customers, and we're essentially going to treat them like our own employees and our own security model, and we're going to say, you're going to get our security model, and that's how it's going to work.
Right.
So there's a free $1 billion idea for somebody out there if you want to start that up. Additionally, these companies are really not focused on their own security, right? They're focused on making money and being a business, because a lot of these small businesses are family-owned businesses where they have to put food on the table and they have to pay their employees.
Yeah.
Having employees is a big burden is a big emotional burden in a small business.
Yeah,
right?
huge responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility.
Other people's
exactly.
well-being. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's terrible when these companies are faced with the two options of either going out of business or paying some ransom. That is a decision I would never want to make. I'm sure nobody wants to make it, but it's one you need to think about.
Right.
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 That exercise I talk about, where if you take your security team and you pick up the newspaper and you look at the latest cyber breach and you say, how would we respond to this? Right. You as a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner have to do that. You get with your management if you have management, or just sit down with your employees and go, how would we do this?
Right.
Take 5 minutes and think about it.
Right.
It's not a bad exercise to do at any level.
Yeah.
Prevention is definitely the cheapest option. And that's Curtis is 100% correct. That's the case in everything. It's the case in medical stuff. It's the case in cybersecurity. It's the case in just physical security and worrying about it's a lot cheaper to make sure you lock your car at night than it is to try to get your car repaired after it's been stolen and taken for a joyride. right. It's cheaper in time, money, and effort.
Yeah.
And peace of mind.
Yeah.
When we're talking about legislation, I'm not sure that regulation helps small businesses. You and I have talked at length about the banking situation in our country. There aren't a lot of small banks anymore.
Right.
And the reason there aren't a lot of small banks is because the regulatory burden placed on banks is great for these small banks, and they can't be competitive.
Yeah.
Now, there are some small banks that are still around, and I generally like to use them because if one of those fails, it's not really a problem for the federal government and for the FDIC. Right? But if a large bank fails, that might be a problem, right? This concept of too big to fail.
Yeah.
Because there's things that are too big to fail, I don't keep my money with those. That's just my personal choice,
Right.
right? Another great option is credit unions. You can use credit unions.
Sure.
If you probably qualify for some credit union somewhere, use that. You get a lot of great banking services at lower costs.
Yeah.
But I digress, as I often do. So to get back to what Curtis said, if you own a small business, you got to take cybersecurity seriously. You are a target. This is one of the things in my talks, I frequently say, yes, you are a target.
Yeah.
Even if you're an individual, you're a target. Bad guys have a way of monetizing just about everything you have.
Mm-hmm.
They even now have ways of monetizing your cash by getting you to go buy Bitcoin. I can't think of a time in history when somebody could remotely scam you out of your cash. Now you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your best bet is to practice basic security hygiene, cybersecurity hygiene.
Yeah.
Learn what that is and do it. And the other thing is, it is okay to report this to law enforcement if you've been compromised.
Right.
And Curtis makes a comment in passing here that a lot of people don't want to do that because they think for some reason they're going to be the target of law enforcement after that.
Yeah.
And
My
I understand
conversations with the FBI says that's not true.
Right.
And they're trying to be really clear about that. If you go to law enforcement, if you go to your local FBI field office, which if you have something happen, you absolutely should do, that's not going to trigger an audit.
Right.
It's just not how it works.
Right. But
Yeah.
I absolutely understand the fear of that.
Yeah.
The government is a very large, multi-tentacled organism. And from the small business person's perspective, they're there as an adversarial agent, not there to help.
Yeah.
And and again, we're talking about the level of regulation, which I understand that we need regulation so that terrible things don't happen. But at the same point in time, it is the small and medium-sized businesses are the ones that suffer the most for that.
Yeah, and I really, this whole point about basic cyber hygiene, I think is really important because I believe that you could take care of the vast majority of these issues by going through one of the large providers, let's say just like your email, right? Let's go through one of the large providers, the Googles of the world, the Microsofts of the world. You know, pay them for a professional grade account and use something like a YubiKey. Use some kind of hardware key, some kind of multi-factor authentication. That gets you so far down the line
It does.
of protecting
it really,
yourself.
really does. That is a great suggestion.
And these folks are you're allowing their massive resources to do the heavy lifting.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, again, our thanks to Curtis Minder for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have him visit us here on the show. We do appreciate it. And we want to thank our sponsors, KnowBe4. They are the social engineering experts and the pioneers of new school security awareness training. Be sure to take advantage of their free phishing test, which you can find at knowbe4.com/fishtest. Think of KnowBe4 for your security training. That is our show. We want to thank all of you for listening. Thanks to Harbor Labs and the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for their participation. You can learn more at harborlabs.com and isi.jhu.edu. The Hacking Humans podcast is proudly produced in Maryland at the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technology. Our senior producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie. I'm Dave Bittner.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening.